This additive manufacturing is just like artificial intelligence is one of the thrust area of our government of India. Many projects recently have been sanctioned on this additive manufacturing. This technique is not only being used in manufacturing but also being used in realty sector. In China, many companies are fabricating low-cost housing by using additive manufacturing technique, mainly FDM. And recently, I come to know that in Chennai also, two-story building was constructed by using this FDM technique, that is fused deposition modeling technique of this additive manufacturing. So this has become a recent buzzword in our country, and our government of India is giving much stress on this additive manufacturing. So in this lecture, I will discuss about various additive manufacturing techniques, steps for this additive manufacturing, and then I will focus on one technique, that is fused deposition modeling, and then what are the research scope this FDM. So, so in the past, product life was long, and hence it could take long to design. Today, product life is very short due to fast changing customer needs and technological obsolescence. So you can take example of your mobile phone. Every day, mobile phone new models are being launched by different companies. You can take example of automobile car. So every 3 or 6 months, new models are coming to the market. So nowadays, product life has become very short. So companies are always under stress to uh, develop one prototype and then test this prototype and then further start their production. So less time is available nowadays for product development, prototype production, and risk prevention. Okay, so initially this additive manufacturing technology was used for rapid prototyping, means to develop the prototype in minimum possible time. But later on, due to advancement in this technology, some functional prototypes were started to develop. And then nowadays it has become one technique which is economical also, and um, this technique can be used for manufacturing of actual functional parts. So, what is additive manufacturing? As its name indicates, additive means instead of removing the material from the starting piece, we add material layer by layer. So this AM is the construction of physical objects directly from 3D CAD data, layer upon layer. So the only requirement is starting point is that we should have 3D model, that is CAD model of the required part, which is to be fabricated by using additive manufacturing. Then that part is fabricated layer by layer by using a suitable additive manufacturing. So you can see this figure that how part is fabricated layer upon layer. So as opposed to subtractive manufacturing like milling, turning, etc. In subtractive manufacturing, we remove the material from a large size part. So our requirement is that our starting piece, starting part should have larger dimensions than the finished part. So we remove the extra material in form of chips. Okay, so obviously there is a wastage of material and it is also not good for environment. But in additive manufacturing, we do not remove any material. We add the material layer by layer to form the 3D part. So, what is the principle of this additive manufacturing? Is that it's taking two-dimensional layers to form three-dimensional object. Producing 2D layer is relatively simple, so parts usually need to be supported from below. You can see this figure starting from this one, first one on the left hand side, that this is this is one layer, then next layer, then next, and subsequently we'll get the final part. So layer by layer, addition of material, we will get the 3D object. To produce 2D layer is relatively simple, and then placing one layer above the other in continuous manner, then you will get the 3D project, the 3D product. So this is the principle of additive manufacturing. So now this additive manufacturing, sometimes we say it is rapid prototyping, sometimes we say it is additive manufacturing, and sometimes we say it is 3D printing. So what is the exact nomenclature of this technique? So this all three are same. In early days, in mid 1980s, when this technique was developed, first technique was that is stereolithography. So at that time, this technique was mainly used to develop prototypes. So that's why the name was rapid prototyping. But later on, with the advancement in technology and reduction in the cost of machines, this technique was used for manufacturing some functional prototypes, or you can say functional parts, till the end of 20th century. So, so that's why at that time this technique was known as additive manufacturing. But in 21st century, this technique, this machine setup has become economical, very cheap. Even within 5 lakh rupees, you can purchase one FDM printer, or if you want to take some local made printer that is available hardly in 50, 60,000 rupees. So now this technique, this machine has come to the of desks of manufacturer. So nowadays this technique is known as 3D printing.
What's almost 40 years old but looks brand new? Believe it or not, it's 3D printing. It all began in 1981 with a man named Hideo Kodama. Kodama's vision for a functional, rapid prototyping system kickstarted a revolution. It paved the way for a solid, printed model that could be built in layers, and Charles Hull's invention of stereolithography, which let designers create 3D models using digital data. The secret? An acrylic-based material known as photopolymer that turned to plastic under a laser beam and allowed inventors to prototype their designs without the costs. In 1992, Hull debuted his stereolithographic apparatus. While it was still only achievable on an industrial scale, its potential was undeniable. In 1999, the first 3D printed organ was implanted in humans, and incredible medical advancements followed. In 2005, the RepRap project launched a 3D printer known as Darwin, which could build itself and print its own parts. Suddenly, people everywhere had the power to create anything, and mass customization flourished. Startups began to thrive. Objet built a machine that could print in multiple materials at once. Today, 3D printers are cheaper than ever, and their accuracy has improved. The ability to 3D print nearly anything is becoming a reality. It begs the question, what will the future bring? 2017 brought the first 3D printed ship propeller. Objects can be created the width of a human hair. And NASA's zero-gravity 3D printer creates everything from food to rocket parts. So, only time will tell. But one thing's for certain, 3D printing is just getting started.
So in this video, you have seen that how this 3D printing was evolved from 1981 till date. Okay, in earlier days, we were able to manufacture only polymer parts, plastic parts, or polymer resins by using polymer resins. But nowadays, even most of the metallic parts can be fabricated and we are able to manufacture a thin human hair to rocket products. Okay, so lot of advancement has been done in this area, and still a lot of research is going on in this domain. So you can see in this slide that how this technique was evolved from 1981 to till date, and further prediction to up to 2030, and that by 2030 we would be able to fabricate all body organs by using these 3D printing techniques. So what are the pros and cons of additive manufacturing? In this additive manufacturing, there is a complete freedom to design and innovate without penalties. Rapid iteration through design permutation. You can change your design of the product just by changing the CAD model, by just by doing some modification in the CAD model. Then obviously your final product will be fabricated accordingly. Huh? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, sir.
So
Yes,
this
sir.
technique is excellent for mass customization. And this technique is generally not used for mass production. This technique is used for high customized products. So there is no need of any tooling. So it supports green manufacturing. It is highly environment friendly. There is no wastage of material, and it is also energy efficient. So these and disadvantages, there are some disadvantages also, that like unexpected pre and post processing requirement, that depends on the final functional requirement of the part. Sometimes we need excellent surface finish, so in that case we need to go for some post processing technique. uh, High process cost, actually equipment cost of mainly metal printers is very high, maybe in crore of rupees. So, but nowadays FDM printers are cheaply available, and we are hopeful that in coming days the price of metal printer will also be reduced. Lack of industry standards. We do not have industry standards for this technique, but we are hopeful that in coming days this will also be developed. Low speed, not suitable for mass production. These techniques are mainly used for customized products because it is a time-taking procedure. But the advantage is that we do not need any tooling, we do not need any process planning, so the complete part is fabricated in one setup, starting from 3D CAD model and then final fabrication. Inconsistent materials. So all materials cannot be fabricated, and there is some inconsistency in materials also. Limited number of materials, high equipment cost for high-end manufacturing. So these are some disadvantages, but we are hopeful that more and more research, we would be able to overcome all these limitations of these additive manufacturing techniques. So benefit is that this additive manufacturing is based on that whatever you see, you can manufacture that. That is, what you see is what you build. Okay, you should be able to make a 3D CAD model, or you should have some digital data, maybe in form of some X-ray, or maybe some form of some image. So that design can be fabricated by using additive manufacturing. Regardless of the complexity of the parts to be built, building within AM machine is generally performed in a single step. Single step means just you need a CAD model and one machine setup and raw material. Then uh, it doesn't depend on the complexity of part. Part may be simple or may be very complex, but if you are able to make a 3D model, 3D CAD model, then you would be able to fabricate that part by using this technique. Otherwise, you should have some digital data of that part. Weight reduction, for reducing the weight, for optimizing the weight, mainly in case of automotive and aerospace sector. This technique is very much useful. Customized part, customized for highly customization, we prefer this technique. Manufacturing of medical products, yes, obviously nowadays for manufacturing of many medical products, we are using this technique, and this is the future of AM, that is home manufacturing. In coming days, it may be possible that this printer, mainly this FDM, will become very cheap, maybe just in 10 to 15,000 rupees. So it will become your just like home appliance, just like your washing machine or refrigerator, and you can keep this printer at your home. Then if there is any need of any plastic or polymer part, you can fabricate, you can immediately. For example, your toothbrush, suppose in the morning you will not be able to find your toothbrush, then immediately you can fabricate your toothbrush by using this 3D printer. The only requirement is that you should have uh, digital data of your toothbrush in form of CAD model or in form of some image. So, as I discussed that this technique is being used for weight reduction. So here you can take example of this project of weight saving. This is the steel buckle which is used in aeroplane for seat belt. So this steel buckle is weighing 155 grams. So the challenge was to reduce its weight. So this project was taken by this Plunkett Associates, Crucible Industrial Design, US 3T, PRD, Simpleware, Declaim, and University of Exeter. So they've taken this project and they reduced the weight of this buckle by using optimized design. You can see this right hand side design by optimizing the weight. So finally, they fabricated this buckle with a weight of only 70 gram. So there is a weight reduction of 55%. So if this buckle is used in an Airbus 380 with all economy seating, that is 853 seats. So this means that there is a weight reduction of 72.5 kg. Okay, and throughout the airplane lifetime, there was fuel saving of 3.3 million liters approximately. Okay, it means 2 million could be euro. 2 million could be saved by using this optimized design of this buckle. Okay, so this was possible only because of this additive manufacturing technique. So another benefit of this additive manufacturing is that complexity is available freely. So you can see this graph that in case of conventional manufacturing, when complexity increases, then cost of that product will increase linearly. Okay, more complex product means more manufacturing cost. Okay, but in case of additive manufacturing, the cost will remain same. Cost will remain same. It doesn't depend on the complexity. The only cost will be the cost of your raw material and machine cost. Okay, so it doesn't depend on the complexity. So whether part is simple or whether part is complex, okay, the cost will remain same. So only factor is raw material, how much raw material is consumed, and what is the machining cost. Machine setup cost. Okay, so complexity is available freely. Any complex part can be easily fabricated by using additive manufacturing. So nowadays, these customized medical products are being manufactured by using additive manufacturing technique. You can see that these dental crowns or bridges are being manufactured. Implants like this example of a skull implant with modified surface texture. So it is highly patient specific. So as per the requirement, this customized skull implant can be fabricated by using additive manufacturing. So this is the future of AM, that is home manufacturing. That I was telling you one example of your toothbrush. So if you are having one CAD model or any image of your toothbrush, so you can fabricate the toothbrush within few minutes by using this additive manufacturing. So in coming days, it may be possible that this will become one of our home appliance. Okay, nowadays its cost is reducing day by day. In coming days, it may be possible that it will become one of your home appliance. So what are the differences in additive and subtractive manufacturing in part complexity? I have already discussed that that cost of that part fabricated by additive manufacturing doesn't depend on the complexity. So any complex part can be easily fabricated by this additive manufacturing. While in case of subtractive manufacturing, if part complexity increases, then obviously cost will increase. You need to use many tools. Okay, you need to replace these tools one by one. You need to do process planning. Okay, so time taken as well as final costing of that part will increase in subtractive manufacturing. Material, this as far as material is concerned, this additive manufacturing technique is lagging because all materials cannot be fabricated. But we are hopeful that with more and more research in this domain, in coming days, it may be possible that all materials which are fabricated by using subtractive manufacturing can also be taken by this additive manufacturing technique. Speed, although you can say that speed of additive manufacturing is lower than the speed of subtractive manufacturing, but when you take the complete process, okay, that is the manufacturing lead time. So manufacturing lead time starts from that concept design, and then process planning, then production planning, then uh, setting of the machine, and then doing the actual machining operation, and then final post finishing operations. In that case, this additive manufacturing technique is better than the subtractive manufacturing, because in additive manufacturing the only requirement is that digital data of that final part, and then you can give that digital data, you can convert that digital data in some STL file, and then G code can be generated, and that machine instruction can be given to the machine, and then immediately machine will start. So no process planning, no production planning, and finally you will get the fabricated part. So overall manufacturing lead time is much lesser than the subtractive manufacturing. Part quantity, so this subtractive manufacturing is mainly used for mass production, like your CNC lathe machine, CNC milling machine. So these are used for mass production, while in case of additive manufacturing, these are used for customized production. Cost cost uh, if you take the overall cost of production, so in that case the cost of this additive manufacturing is lesser than the subtractive manufacturing, because in subtractive manufacturing you will need cutting tools, you will need machine setup, and other steps are to be performed, like process planning, production planning, some post finishing techniques also. But in additive manufacturing, the only requirement is raw material and machine setup. So these you can say it is cheaper than the subtractive manufacturing. So we are not discussing in detail about this. Okay, so this slide shows one cup. So what can be the problems for machining this cup using CNC machining? Suppose this cup is made of some metal. Okay, so in this case, if you will use some CNC machine, then still you will not be able to machine this cup. You can see that here the cavity is too deep to machine, and the undercut here cannot be performed without more than 3 axis CNC machine. This undercut cannot be machined if your machine is not 5 axis or 7 axis. Here base of this cup cannot be machined, since machine must hold using a fixture. So there will be problem of designing the proper fixture to hold this cup. And there are sharp internal features in the handle of this cup. So it would be difficult to machine these sharp internal features by using CNC machine. But by using additive manufacturing, if you are able to uh, model this cup, if you are able to prepare a 3D CAD model, or you are able to take an image of this product to generate digital data, then you can easily fabricate this cup by using 3D machine, this 3D printing. So what are the generic EM process? What are the generic steps, general steps for this EM process? So I will show you one video which was prepared in our lab. So that video will show you the complete all the steps starting from this CAD model. So here in this slide, you can see that first of all CAD model is to be developed. Here this product is your this cup. Then this CAD model is to be converted into STL file, that is automatically converted in all CAD softwares. You can convert easily. Then that file is to be transferred to machine, but before that you need to convert this STL file into machine language. You need to generate code, so that is also automatically done by that software. Then you need to set up the machine, you need to set up some parameters depending upon the material of that part, as well as finish requirement. Then machine will start fabricating that part layer by layer. Then you will remove that part from the build platform, and then some post processing techniques may be required, some finishing techniques, some type of heat treatment may be required. That depends on the final application of this product, and then finally you can use this part. Okay, so from this these steps, you can see that if you are able to generate the digital data, that is CAD model of that part, then all other steps are either done by the software, or you need to select some process parameters finally for the machine. Then this technique is able to fabricate that part in within few hours. So another thing is about layer thickness. How layer thickness affects the finishing of the part. So as this additive manufacturing fabricates the part layer by layer. So if layer thickness will be large, then obviously the final finish of that part will be poor. But you can reduce that time also by increasing the layer thickness. Okay, so it depends on the final application of that part, whether you need a good surface finish, or you need to reduce that fabrication time. So if you reduce the layer thickness, if you keep the layer thickness minimum, then obviously surface finish of that part will improve. So this is one example of conversion of solid model of an object into layers. So here only one layer is shown, you can see, and that this is your final part. So you can convert into layer. So this on the right hand side in figure B, you can see this is one layer. So when in one first one layer is fabricated, then another layer will be deposited on this layer. So there may be thousands of layers, and finally you will get the 3D object. So classification of additive manufacturing processes. So these EM processes are classified into 7 categories. First one is wet photopolymerization, then material jetting, binder jetting, material extrusion techniques, powder bed fusion techniques, sheet lamination, and directed energy deposition. So we will discuss each technique one by one, and I will also show you some videos of this technique. So first one is wet photopolymerization. This technique was first developed by this Charles Hull. who was the co-founder of this 3D system company of USA. So here we use raw material in form of photopolymers. So photopolymers were developed in the late 1960s, and then these were used in mainly in coating and printing industries. So in 1986, this Charles Hull developed one company, that is 3D System, based on the above principle of these photopolymers, and patented the machine called stereolithography apparatus, that is SLA, which convert the liquid plastic into solid object. So stereolithography is an additive manufacturing process which employs a wet of liquid ultraviolet curable photopolymer resin and an ultraviolet laser to build parts layer by layer. So you can see that there is a wet of liquid photopolymer resin, and then this resin is spread on the build platform by using this sweeper. Then this is cured by using this laser. So this laser head will move on this build platform as per the STL file of that part. So the laser will be cured selectively. So after curing of one layer, then build platform will be lower down equal to one layer thickness. Then again sweeper will spread the resin on the build platform equal to one layer thickness, and again this laser head will move across the build platform as per the STL file, or you can say machine G code of that part. And then again next layer will be cured selectively. So in this manner, this part is fabricated layer by layer. So here the layer thickness is generally 0.05 millimeter to 0.15 millimeter. So layer thickness is very small, 0.05 millimeter. Okay, so surface finish of these products made by this SLA technique is very good. Uh, but the main thing is that this technique, wet photopolymerization, is mainly used for plastics and polymers. And these plastic and polymers should be ultraviolet curable. So another disadvantage is that this technique requires supporting structures. You need to generate the supports also during the CAD modeling of that part. Okay, in case your any component of that part is inclined more than 45 degrees, then you need to generate the supports also. And finally, these supports are to be removed after fabrication of the complete part. Okay, so while removing these supports from that part, there may be increase in the surface roughness of this part. Okay, but this was, you can say, this the technique which was first developed in this domain in 1986 by this 3D system company. So now I will show you this video of this wet photopolymerization technique. I need to change the setting of this setting of audio. So please bear with me.
The Form 1 Plus is a stereolithography 3D printer. Today, we're going to take a look at how it works and put it to the test against parts from an extrusion-based machine. Let's start by taking a closer look at the printer. When we open up the light blocking cover, we can see a build platform inside. This metal plate is where the parts are made. Underneath the build platform is a resin tank. This clear window gives the ultraviolet laser a path to cure the resin. To start a print, we'll upload a file and fill up the resin tank to the indicator line. You can see the laser passing back and forth inside, hardening the liquid plastic. We'll take our printout and wash it in rubbing alcohol to get the excess resin off.
The flower comes with supports on it, and we'll snip them off to finish the piece. Stereolithography is known for producing extreme detail with layers down to 4 times finer than a human hair. The Form 1 Plus lets us take advantage of a library of materials, so we made some other parts to show what these resins can do. A castable resin gives jewelers and engineers an inexpensive way to produce metal parts. This flexible resin is great for simulating different textures, and as we can see, this tough resin can really take a hit. Now let's compare how the Form 1 Plus parts stand up against a filament printer. The stereolithography part comes out nice and smooth, but we can see and feel the ridges on the cup printed with filament. When we break this sample piece, you can see that filament parts quickly snap along the layer lines. The SLA process creates a chemical bond, so our prints take much more force. Today, we took a look at how stereolithography printers work, the types of resins they can print with, and what makes the parts stand out against other desktop machines. If you liked our intro to stereolithography 3D printing, check out some of our other videos.
So from this video, you have seen that this technique is useful for fabrication of photopolymer parts having good surface finish as well as good strength. So next is material jetting. So material jetting is an additive manufacturing process that operates in a similar fashion to 2D printers. Here, similar to 2D printer, there is a print head. You can see these are the 2 print heads. These 2 nozzles. Okay, one is for build material, another one is for support material. So these nozzles dispenses droplets of a photosensitive material that solidifies under ultraviolet light, building a part layer by layer. Okay, so again here the material used is thermoset photopolymers, that is acrylics, that come in liquid form. Okay, so first this temperature of this liquid resin is raised to 60 degree, 30 to 60 degree to achieve optimal viscosity of this resin. Then the print head travels over the build platform and hundreds of teeny droplets of these photopolymers are dispensed, are jetted to the desired location as per the STL file of that part. An ultraviolet light source that is attached to the print head that cures the deposited material, solidifying it and creating the first layer of the part. Then after one layer is completed, then the build platform moves downward equal to 1 layer thickness, and this process repeats thousands of times. That depends on the final dimension of that part. So this technique is also used for this photopolymers, polymers like polypropylene, high density polyethylene, polymethyl acrylate, that is PMMA, and acrylonitrile butadiene styrene, that is ABS. So for all these polymers we use this technique. So now again there is one video of this material jetting process.
PolyJet is a 3D printing method that makes beautiful, precise models in a huge variety of materials and colors. It works like an inkjet printer. But instead of jetting drops of ink, PolyJet 3D printers jet tiny droplets of liquid plastic. A UV light instantly cures the plastic, solidifying it. And so, layer by layer, complex models take shape. The most advanced PolyJet systems can build multi-material parts, soft, rigid, clear, and colorful. You can even adjust material properties like heat resistance and durability. The same technology that makes gorgeous prototypes also makes precise manufacturing tools. Designers can predict future needs and serve them now. Manufacturers deliver better products faster and with less waste. Researchers have new methods of saving lives. PolyJet is reshaping industries like film, fashion, and medicine. It's helping people with great ideas improve the future. What's next?
So next technique is binder jet. It is also called color jet printing. So in binder jetting, as its name indicates, a binder is selectively deposited onto the powder bed. So bonding these areas together to form a solid part, one layer at a time. So here, instead of that for photopolymer, here binder is deposited in form of drops on the powder bed on the build platform. So this binder is deposited selectively as per the STL file of that part. So here the materials commonly used in binder jetting are metal, sand, and ceramics. So all types of materials which can be converted, which are available in form of powder. So so that can be built in form of some part. So we need to use different binders for different materials. So here first a recoating blade, you can see that recoating blade spread a thin layer of powder over the build platform. Then this print head will move across the build platform and it will selectively deposit that binder on the powder as per the STL file of that part, and you will get one layer. All the powder particles will bind it with each other through this binder, and then after completion of one layer, then build platform will move in downward direction equal to one thickness. Then again this spreading roller or recoating blade will spread the powder on the build platform equal to one layer thickness, and then again print head will move across the build platform to dispense the binder, liquid binder onto the powder. So in this manner the part is fabricated layer by layer. So see this video of this binder jetting process.
Binder jetting additive manufacturing is a process inspired by the technology of inkjet printers. In this process, a liquid binder is selectively deposited on a powder bed with a print head. It is a growing process that allows the production of parts for the manufacturing, medical, and dental industries. This technique enables the production of metallic and ceramic parts as well as sand molds for castings. To start the process, a 3D drawing is imported into the printer software. The powder to be used is placed in a dispenser, which ensures a constant supply during printing. First, a powder layer of a specific thickness is spread. Thereafter, the printing head, moving on two axes, projects the binder where necessary. Before moving on to the next layer, the solvent contained in the binder is evaporated by an incandescent lamp. The powder bed is then lowered and a new powder layer is deposited. Therefore, the production takes place in a series of steps that build the part layer by layer. When the cycle is completed, the binder is cured by placing the container in a furnace. The temperature and time depend on the type of binder employed during printing. After this step, unbound particles are removed to reveal the part or the mold. After this step, the sand molds are ready to be used in foundries. The metal and ceramic parts must undergo sintering, infiltration, heat treatment, or hot isostatic pressing before being used.
So in this binder jetting technique, sometimes we use color binders. So that's why it is also called color jet printing. But the main limitation is this, that in the case of metallic products, we need to go for heat treatment process to increase the mechanical properties of that part. Otherwise, this technique is very much popular in case of building sand molds, which are used in casting process. Then one of the most popular technique of this additive manufacturing is this FDM, fused deposition modeling. This fused deposition modeling comes under this material extrusion technique. So here raw material is available in form of wire. This wire is melted in this your heater, in this extruder, in this heater. Then this wire in form of viscous form is coming out through this nozzle, which is at the end of this heater, and then this is deposited in form of drops on the build platform. So this is the material extrusion technique. Here material is extruded from the nozzle. So the requirement is that we need to heat this wire so that it will come in viscous form, so that it can be easily extruded through the nozzle. So this technique is most widely used nowadays, and that machine is also cheaply available. So all types of thermoplastic materials like ABS, PLA, PETG, so all these can be used in this technique as a feedstock material. So you can see this video of this technique.
Fused deposition modeling, or FDM, is a layer additive manufacturing process that uses production-grade thermoplastic materials to produce both prototype and end-use parts. This technology is known to accurately produce feature details and has an excellent strength-to-weight ratio. FDM is ideal for concept models, functional prototypes, manufacturing aids, and low-volume end-use parts. The FDM process begins by slicing 3D CAD data into layers. The data is then transferred to a machine, which constructs the part layer by layer upon a build platform. Thin thread-like spools of thermoplastic and support material are used to create each cross-section of the part. Similar to a hot melt glue gun, uncoiled material is slowly extruded through dual heated nozzles. The extrusion nozzles precisely lay down both support and thermoplastic material upon the preceding layers. The extrusion nozzle continues to move in a horizontal XY plane while the build platform moves down, building the part layer by layer. The finished part is removed from the build platform and cleaned of its support material. Raw FDM parts have visible layer lines. However, service providers such as Solid Concepts offer multiple finishing options to create smooth, even surface parts, including hand sanding, assembly, and cosmetic paint. Since FDM parts are constructed with production-grade thermoplastics, including ABS, polycarbonate, and Ultem, they are both functional and durable. FDM is utilized in a number of industries, including aerospace, automotive, industrial, commercial, and medical.
So this material extrusion technique, many thermoplastic materials like ABS, PLA, nylon, and this TPU, all these can be fabricated. The only requirement is that this material should be available in form of wire. So next technique is powder bed fusion process. As the name indicates here, the raw material is in the form of powder. So this technique is known by different names like DMLS, that is direct metal laser sintering, EBM, electron beam melting, SHS, that is selective heat sintering, SLS, selective laser sintering, and SLM is the selective laser melting. So here that heat source requirement is that either laser beam or electron beam, and the raw material is in the form of powder. So there is a powder storage. You can see there is a powder tank on the left hand side. So this powder is spread on the build platform by using this powder roller or recoating blade. Then this laser source will scan this powder as per the STL file of that required part. So this laser will selectively scan the powder cross section, and then either through sintering process or melting process. Sintering process is mainly used for that plastic parts or thermoplastic parts, while melting is used for metallic parts, metallic powder. So through sintering or through melting, that powder particles joins with each other selectively as per the CAD model, or you can say STL file of that part. So after completion of one layer, that build platform will move downward direction equal to one layer thickness. Then again, this recoating blade or powder roller will spread the powder on the build platform. Then again, this laser source will selectively scan that powder, and then second layer is built, and then in this manner the complete part is fabricated layer by layer. So this is also popular technique for mainly for metallic parts, but the main difficulty is that nowadays metal printers are very costly, and so this technique is only being used for industrial applications. So now please see this video. So by using this selective laser melting technique, you can fabricate any complex metallic parts. So selective laser sintering is mainly used for plastic parts, while melting, selective laser melting, or this DMLS, direct metal laser sintering, is used for this stainless steel, titanium, aluminum, cobalt, chromium, and steel, while electron beam melting is used for titanium, cobalt, chromium, aluminum, and copper. So any material which is available in form of powder, that can be used in this technique, and any complex shape of metallic or plastic can be fabricated easily. So next is sheet lamination technique, which is also known as ultrasonic additive manufacturing or laminated object manufacturing. So this technique is mainly used for sheet metals or paper, paper sheets. So there are many sheet lamination techniques, but out of these, one important, which is popular technique, is ultrasonic welding or ultrasonic additive manufacturing. So in this case, sheets or ribbons of metal which are bound together using ultrasonic welding. The process does require additional CNC machining and removal of the unbound metal, often during the welding process. So there are two methods. Either you can cut layer by layer by using some CNC machine as per the final shape of that product, and then you can do the welding of all these layers. And sometimes you need to do the welding before, and then you can cut the final shape. So here the material is positioned in place of first cutting bed, then material is bonded in place over the previous layer using the adhesive. Then required shape is then cut from the layer by laser or knife, then the next layer is added. So here, by using ultrasonic as a heat source, we bonded layers of sheet metal one upon the other, while paper sheets are bonded by using some adhesive. So strength of these such type of parts is not so good, but in some applications these type of parts can be used. So we'll show you one video of this technique.
Ultrasonic welding, or the ultrasonic additive manufacturing, is an additive manufacturing process wherein thin metal strips are welded in solid state on each other using ultrasounds. To start the fabrication, the shape is programmed into the CNC machine. The strips are juxtaposed with a certain overlap, ensuring a fully dense part. The vibrations induced by ultrasound permit mechanical anchoring of the lamellae on the substrate. Thereafter, the lamellae are stacked layer by layer. The type of materials can even be changed during manufacturing to impart special properties to the finished part. The process can also weld incompatible materials because no liquid phase is formed during welding. After the welding, machining is performed to obtain the final part.
So next and last one is direct energy deposition technique, that is DED. So this technique is known by different names like laser engineered net shaping, that is LENS, directed light fabrication technique, directed metal deposition, or 3D laser cladding. So this technique is mainly used for repairing work or for adding some extra material on the existing component. So it is similar to extrusion process, but the only thing is that here that nozzle is mounted on 4 or 5 axis machine. So that this nozzle can move in multiple direction, and it deposit the metal in form of powder or in form of wire on the existing component, or in case of repair, it deposit the metal at the joint. And then simultaneously there will be laser which will melt this metal, and then after solidification we will get the joint or addition of extra metal on the existing component. So here the requirement is that we need a 4 or 5 axis arm with nozzle moves around the fixed object. So this process can be used with polymers, ceramics, metals, available in form of either powder or wire. So see this video of this process. So this direct energy deposition technique is not only used for fabrication of parts but also used for repairing work. So this table shows different techniques, comparison of different techniques in terms of state of starting material, typical polymer material, advantages and disadvantages. So each technique has its own pros and cons, uh, but many techniques are still under development stage and research is going on. So in near future, we can see that most of the disadvantage or limitation of these techniques may be eliminated. So now, what are the applications of additive manufacturing? We have already discussed. Now, this figure shows that this application of this 3D printing worldwide in different sectors. So you can see that about 32% applications are in motor vehicles, then consumer products around 18%, then for business machines 11%, then medical around 9%, academic purposes 8.6%, then aerospace, government, military, and others. So in every sector, these 3D techniques have some type of applications. So you can see that this 3D printed ATP aircraft engine. So this aircraft engine is printed by using metallic printer in one setup. So the important advantage of this 3D printing is that we do not need any assembled part. The complete part is fabricated in one setup. The only requirement is that you should be able to prepare the CAD model of this part. So similarly, Navy and Army recruit 3D printers. So in Navy, naval ships, the difficulty is that these naval ships remains in sea for continuous 1 month, 2 months, or maybe 6 months. So if there is any requirement of any part, then they have to they have to acquire it from some nearby country. But in this case, if this ship is having 3D printer, so any part can be fabricated on ship itself. So US Navy is using these 3D printers in naval ships. Then you can see that 3D printed bike handles escalate disabled athlete to the Paralympic World Cup. Okay, so this handle is fabricated by using 3D printer. Then face mask. Neutrogena, the American skincare brand of the multinational healthcare company Johnson and Johnson, has introduced its customizable 3D printed face mask. Then 3D printer construction, architecture, and the built in an environment. Furniture or even housing can be constructed. 3D housing can be constructed by using 3D printer. And these are some other applications you can see. Even complex geometries can be easily fabricated by using 3D printer. Mask customized, your headphone, earbuds, all these, your jewelry, your shoe sole can be fabricated by using 3D printer. And integrated assembly means complete assembly of you can see this drone can be fabricated in one setup. There is no need of assembled component. So some engineering redesign can also be done by using this 3D printer. You can use reverse engineering concept. So in this FDP, we have arranged one lecture on reverse engineering also that will be delivered by my colleague Dr. Sheikh. I think on the last on tomorrow, day by tomorrow. So now, as I told you that nowadays low cost housing is also made by 3D printer, FDM printer. So I will show you one video of this 3D printed house projects.
This house was built in 24 hours. How? Thanks to modern technology, Apis Core 3D printing. The walls of this house were printed entirely on site. This is the world's first actually printed house. With the advent of Apis Core technology, construction 3D printing opens a new round of evolution. Thanks to the innovative design of the printer, Apis Core technology consists of a mobile construction 3D printer and automatic mix and supply unit, which combine to make the construction printing process as much automated as possible and almost eliminate the human factor. This equipment is unique and has no analogs in the world today. Apis Core is compact dimensions, high printing speed, ease of transport, and maximum automation of the system. Commissioning on site takes no more than an hour. With so many advantages, the 3D printing technology easily accounted for competition with traditional methods of construction. The testing was successful and the technology is ready for mass use. Time of printing amounted to 24 hours. Soon, using new materials such as geopolymer concrete, houses could be printed in both summer and winter. In the printing process, we used horizontal fiberglass reinforcements for the walls. The quality of the printed wall surface allows to perform final finishing immediately, which significantly reduces the cost of finishing works. The roof of the printed house, in accordance with the architectural project, is flat. Such a roof can effectively withstand high snow loads and durability requirements. Its cost is comparable with steep roofs, which are common for our country. Apis Core construction 3D printing technology adapted for different methods of printed walls thermal insulation. This project used loose dry insulating material on one part of the house and polyurethane filler composition on the other. Technology does not require fixtures and fills all voids in the space between the bearing wall and the outer concrete structure, avoids the formation of cold bridges. On the inside, the printed house is no different from a regular concrete house. It is also comfortable and reliable. The house interior includes a hall, a bathroom, a living room, and a compact functional kitchen with the most modern appliances. The house size is 38 square meters. Construction costs amounted to $10,134, which corresponds to approximately $275 per square meter. And this, in view of the shape complexity of the building. Prices include all works and materials for the construction of foundation, roof, exterior and interior finishing works, installation of heat insulation of walls, windows, floors, and ceilings. A regular square house made using materials of an average price category would cost about $223 per square meter. The use of Apis Core Construction 3D printer allows to save up to 70% on erecting buildings boxes compared to traditional material and labor-intensive construction methods. The Apis Core company and its partners are confident that this house was the first step which convinced the world that 3D technology on the market today is a reality.
But it's one primed for change. Industrial 3D printing is at a tipping point. It's ready to emerge from its niche status and become a viable alternative to the long-established processes in an increasing number of applications. Because the Hadrian can print the complete structure from one position, course by course, using bricks and blocks, will mean that it will compete strongly with the stand-up panel and brick veneer type buildings that are traditionally used in some areas. The high output and short return on investment of these machines could see the Hadrian X transitioning into the global marketplace. The prototype, Hadrian 105, has successfully proven that the technology delivers what it promises to do, demonstrating it can safely and accurately build a structure course by course by delivering bricks along a 30-metre boom.
So automated bricklaying really involves bringing a lot of different technologies together to solve a lot of different problems. The workflow with a traditional bricklayer is he turns up at a slab and sets out some strings and then some uprights and starts laying the bricks. We might place some door frames or window frames and they build the house wall by wall. We actually print the house layer by layer. So we do an entire course, internal walls, external walls. Laying bricks is not really the problem. The problem is dealing with the layout, where all the walls go. Because we don't need any physical constraints for setup, we don't bother placing doors or window frames. We place all of those afterwards. So the house prints up from the ground, emerging layer by layer.
The 3D modelling and construction allows for very fast and low-cost buildings to be completed, providing builders with efficiencies not seen in the industry before. Structures built without traditional mortar improves the thermal and acoustic quality of the building and reduces the cost of heating and cooling. Precision plumbing and 3D modelling allows for an accurate bill of materials for estimating, producing the lowest possible waste and further reducing cost to the consumer.
So you have seen the recent application of this 3D printing in house projects. Okay, so this is the future of 3D printing. In coming days, this technology will be maybe popular in our country also. Already one two-story building has been constructed in Chennai by using 3D printer. So this is a big challenge of construction industry in our country. So benefits of 3D printing, we have already discussed that lower cost and simplified supply chains, improved product performance, faster time to market, faster cycle time and flexible logistic. So 8 steps in AM, I'm skipping these. I will show you one video of this complete process of FDM. So extrusion based additive manufacturing, which is most widely used 3D printing technology. Here, this material is extruded just like it is just like cake icing. In cake icing, material contained in reservoir is forced out through a nozzle when pressure is applied. So if the pressure remains constant, then the resulting extruded material, which is commonly known as rolls, which flow at a constant rate and will remain a constant cross-sectional diameter. So since the material is extruded, the EM machine must be capable of scanning in a horizontal plane as well as starting and stopping the flow of material while scanning. Once a layer is completed, the machine must index upward or move the part downward. So there are two primary approaches when using the extrusion process. One is to use temperature as a way of controlling the material state. Means you can change the temperature or you can increase the temperature of material, so it will come in viscous form so that it can flow easily through the nozzle. Another approach is to use some chemical change to cause solidification. In such cases, a curing agent, residual solvent, reaction with air, or simply drying of a wet material permits bonding to occur. So the first approach is most widely used. So basic principle of extrusion-based additive manufacturing is that there are a number of key features. First one is loading of material. Material is loaded in form of wire. Then liquefaction of that material means temperature of that material is increased so that this material will be liquefied, so that it can become viscous and can flow easily through the nozzle. Then application of pressure to move the material through the nozzle. So there should be continuous uniform pressure on the material so that it will come out through the nozzle uniformly. And then extrusion, material is extruded through the nozzle, then floating according to predefined path and in controlled manner. Then bonding of the material to itself or secondary build material to form a coherent solid structure. That one layer should be bonded with the previous layer. And at the same time, there may be supporting material also. So in that case, we may use two nozzle. One nozzle is used for primary material and another nozzle is used for secondary support material. Then inclusion of support structure to enable complex geometrical features. Supports are mainly used where any element of that part is having more than 45-degree inclination. So this is also known as fuse deposition modeling. So this is the most commonly used technique, which was produced and developed by Stratasys USA company. This FDM uses a heating chamber to liquefy polymer that is fed into the system as a filament. And filament is pushed into the chamber by a tractor wheel arrangement, and it is this pushing that generates the extrusion pressure. The initial FDM patent was awarded to this company founder Scott Crumb in 1992, and the company has gone through the strength to the point where there are more FDM machines than any other EM machine type in the world. So these are most widely used machines throughout the world. The major strength of the FDM is in the range of material and the effective mechanical properties of the resulting parts made using this technology. So many materials can be handled by this machine, and the strength is reasonably good. So this figure shows the basic principle of this FDM. You can see there is a feed stock filament, and then through roller mechanism it is fed inside this chamber heater. There are inner coils which heat the this material, which is in form of wire, so that it can become viscous, and then through this extruder, and this material is come out through the nozzle. Okay, and this nozzle will deposit the material on the build platform according to the STL file of that final part. So feedstock filament is heated and extruded on the base plate exactly at the coordinators provided by G code file. Extruded moves upward by exactly one layer thickness after deposition of each layer. So process is repeated till the complete part is fabricated. So you can see this 3D diagram of this setup. You can see that there are two nozzles. One nozzle is used for primary material and another nozzle is used for support material. Okay, so material is extruded through these nozzles and deposited on the build platform layer by layer, and after solidification you will get the final part. So all these materials can be handled by this machine. ABS, ABSI, ABS Plus, ABS PC, PLA, PETG. So there is a long list of material, and you can see the properties of these materials also. So what are the limitations of this FDM? That sharp features or corners not possible to get, because in this case, in case of sharp features, that nozzle is to move suddenly, is to change its direction suddenly. So that is not possible. When there is a changing in direction, obviously more material will be deposited at the corners. So sharp features or corners cannot be fabricated. But nowadays, machines are available which can overcome this limitation. Part strength is weak perpendicular to build axis. Actually, this FDM fabricated parts are anisotropic. Means part is having good strength along x and y axis, but poor strength along z axis, because layers are deposited along z axis. So strength is not so good along z axis. More area in slices requires longer build time, so build time is longer as compared to other techniques. Temperature fluctuation during production could lead to delamination. So temperature should be kept uniform throughout the process, otherwise there may be delamination of the layers. So this table shows the process parameter with their range. You can see layer thickness is possible from 0.1 to 0.35 millimeter. So that depends on the final functional requirement of that part. Raster angle 0 to 90 degree, raster width 0.2 to 0.5 millimeter, print speed 30 to 65 millimeter per second, number of contours 1 or 2 contours, infill density maybe 10 to 100%. That depends on the functional requirement. Infill pattern may be line, triangle, contour width maybe 0.2 to 0.5 millimeter. So ABS, polycarbonate, nylon, all these materials can be fabricated by using this process, and most of the machines are fabricated by Stratasys, but nowadays the patent is over, therefore some local machines are also available. So now I will show you, if you are interested, I can show you the complete process of this FDM. Otherwise, I will show you at the end this video. So applications of this FDM is in aerospace and aviation application, prototyping, scaffolds for medical tissue engineering applications. All these are the applications of FDM. Okay, so now the next part of this presentation is advances and future scope of FDM. A lot of research is done in this domain, fuse deposition modeling. In 2019, my research team have published one review paper. In this review paper, we have reviewed more than 250 papers starting from 1994 to 2019. Okay, so all these papers have been reviewed, and we have identified the research gaps and how these research gaps can be filled by using the roadmap. So I will show you this paper. So in this paper was published in Rapid Prototyping Journal, which is a CI journal. So in this paper, we have reviewed more than 250 papers starting from 1994, and this is the methodology of this literature review, that we have reviewed paper based on process parameter optimization, considering environmental parameters, post-production finishing techniques, numerical simulation, and what are the recent advances in this domain. So you can see this is the literature review in depth. So you can see that all the papers have been categorized related with optimization of process parameters on the basis of feedstock filament material. Based on the feedstock filament material. These researchers have optimized the process parameters. ABS, ABS plus, PLA, PLA plus, PC, nylon. Okay, so there is a long list of material. Then summary of major research in process parameter optimization of fused deposition modeling based on the process parameter responses and what is the significant factor. Then numerical simulation, and then major research in post-production finishing technique of fused deposition modeling. You know that in fused deposition modeling, sometimes we need post-production finishing technique to increase the finishing of fabricated parts. Then we have listed the scope of future research. What are the research gaps? Okay, in this domain, what are the research gaps? So these are the research gaps. You can see all the research gaps have been listed down here. On the basis of this detailed literature review, a scope of future research is identified in the following domains. That there are opportunities for further research in the part production optimization of the process for FDM feedstock material other than ABS and PLA. So most of the research work is focused on ABS and PLA feedstock material. But you can also try other material like PPSF, ESC, PS, PS, ISO, glass filled PLA, clay, silicone, resin, and elastomer. Okay, so not much literature is available on these materials. Effect of number of contours, deposition speed, base temperature, extrusion temperature on flexural strength of FDM parts need further investigation. Also, layer thickness has much significance for tensile and flexural properties, but other properties may also be affected by this parameter to a large degree. It needs further investigation. Most of the research on process optimization of FDM is restrained to linear and circular features. Taguchi-based parameter optimization can further be extended to more complicated facets such as overhangs, gradient, and curvature to a more realistic problem. Fabrication of dissimilar materials, plastic and metal, in single build needs further research as both materials have a different melting point. Combining them as per function requirement can tackle strength and stiffness, durability, and solve many of the current problems incurred in different applications. Fabrication of lattice structure for tissue engineering with interconnecting pores for cell growth is possible by FDM. So further research is required in investigating printing characteristics of lattice structure manufactured via dynamic process parameter of the FDM process. So all these are the research gaps. Further studies required on the effect of shrinkage alloys, similar to casting process on the dimensional accuracy of FDM parts. Limited research is available on more complex analysis such as thermal, chemical, wear, shrinkage, wrappage, dynamic stiffness, hardness, creep, production time, torsion, product cost and process cost, porosity, stress in strain performance, and the high stress, high strain rate crushing, fatigue and vibration for the FDM material. So all these are the research gaps we have listed here. Okay, so not only the research gaps, but how these research gaps can be filled. We have discussed roadmap for future research also. Okay, so how these research gaps can be filled. Roadmap is also discussed. You can see this is this table 4 is the roadmap for future research. Okay, so first one is gaps related with design for manufacture of numerical modeling. So these are the phases you can start by framing the guidelines for design of manufacture for FDM parts. Then you can do the simulation, then rate of cooling effect of environmental factors on FDM process should be numerical model. Then environmental factors, machines, then different phases. Okay, so this is the roadmap for future research in this domain. Okay, so you can go through this paper. This paper is available online, and I'm showing you the link of this paper. This paper is published in Rapid Prototyping Journal, SCI Journal. So please go through this paper if you want to work further in this domain for your PhD or for your further career advancement. Okay, so this is all about this additive manufacturing techniques. Now, if you want to see that video of fuse deposition modeling,
Hello. In this video, we are going to learn the steps involved in the FDM process. First step is CAD modeling. Second is STL file conversion. Third, file transfer to machine. Fourth is machine setup. Fifth is build. Sixth, remove. 7, processing, and 8, application. So first important step is CAD modeling. So you can use any CAD modeling software and build parts like this. Just make sure that you should give output in .stl file format. So save as, then save as, then file, save as, save copy as. Make sure this is STL and name that RCA or any other name. Just make sure that it is STL file format and save. After that, second step is STL conversion. That is already we have seen that file is converted in STL file format. Third, file transfer to machine. So before that, this is Altimeter Cura, the software which require for G-code generation. So input that STL file, that RCA.stl here. This is that part. Actually, you can scale this part. So there is the option of scaling here. You can make that 200, 300%, or you can make actual original size also. So this is the part. So here you can change process parameter settings. So quality is layer height, the height through which nozzle will move upward or bed will move downward to exactly the value given over here in mm. So we have given 0.3 mm. Shell, this is wall thickness. So if we see preview, so this is the wall thickness. Wall line count, number of wall lines, wall thicknesses, top and bottom thickness, the top and bottom thickness, and top layers and top bottom layers. These are the options available in this cell. Then infill, you can keep 100%, 10%, 50% as per requirement, and there are different options for filling: grid, line, triangles, tri-hexagonals. Then material, as per material you can set temperature for nozzle and bed. So for PLA you can keep 210 or 200 for nozzle in degree centigrade, and for bed it is 70. For ABS you can keep 240 nozzle temperature and 100-degree bed temperature. This is speed, print speed in mm per second. So 40 or 100 you can take So travel, pooling are other options. Support, you can also generate support. Build plate adhesion is another option. Now you can see preview here. How part will actually build layer by layer. So total there are 34 layers. In 34 layers, total part will build like this. And make sure that you should give output in G code. There are another option also, .premap, G code, STL, UFP, or OBJ. So make sure you select here G code and give output. So like this way, this is STL file that the CAD modeling software have generated, and this is .G code file Cura software generated. Now we can take this file in a memory card or pen drive and give this input to the machine. Hello. Remaining steps, that list number, step number 4, 5 and 6. So machine step is step number 4. So in this machine there are two motors in Z direction, that is movement of bed is controlled by two motors in Z direction. So there are another two motors for Y direction, here and here. There is one motor for X movement of extruder and another motor, that's motor number 6 for movement of fan. So extruder is in this location. The filament is coming from a reel and going to directly the extruder here. The G code file that in this in previous video we have given output in the form of a G code. That file is saved in memory card. So that memory card is here inserted like this. So first step is in prepare preheat PLA1. So these are temperature settings. 210 is for extruder, and 70. The coils are behind the bed also, below the bed also. So 70 degree is temperature for that, and this is the current temperature. 61 degree centigrade is current temperature of nozzle. 30 degree centigrade is current temperature of bed. So temperature is now increasing. After completion of, after reaching this temperature to set level, again press this tab, print from SD, and this is the file that which we are going to run. So this is the file from memory card. Just press enter. So temperature is now increased to 210, and bed temperature will now increase to 46 to 70. So after reaching that temperature, there will be movement of extruder and bed. The filament is coming from extruder. You can remove this extra filament. can see that extruder is laying first outer layer. So this is the filament of PLA. PLA means polylactic acid. So there is no need to apply acetone. But if there is ABS, that is ABS part, if they are to be printed, so bed should be applied with acetone or acetone ABS mix. You can call it acetone juice. So that part will stick exactly to the bed. So there will be no warpage. So warpage is a problem for ABS. For PLA and PETG, it is okay to print without acetone. So after completion of total part, you can remove this part with the help of tool. So this is the PLA. If this part is of ABS, you can improve surface finish using acetone vapors. Or for PLA, you can rough a paper to improve the surface finish, and this is the total actual part. After that, make sure that you cool down the machine settings here. Prepare. Cool down so that filament and bed are their normal temperature.